Hey guys, got a few minutes before the owner gets here. Nothing to do but sit and wait, so I figured I'll make this video. So if you haven't seen it, there's a video going viral. I understand it has over 30 million views of a man in the Olympics beating the crap out of a woman. The man claims he's a woman, but he wasn't able to box in a few tournaments before the Olympics because they test, and the test improved he was a man. But the Olympics just take your word. If you don't identify as a transgender, they let you box. So this Italian woman who worked her whole life to make it to the Olympics and get a gold medal had to quit after 2 punches. She says, I know what it feels like to be hit by a woman. I was hit by a man. And I haven't watched the video because it would make me sick to my stomach. I've seen in my life 2 different times when I was a teenager, men hitting their girlfriends, and my reaction was to punch both of them in the mouth, and I get really aggravated when I see that. So I haven't watched it. It's disgusting. But unfortunately, I'm not surprised because I seen a video on accident years ago where an MMA fighter called what was his name? Fallon Fox, I think. Fallon Fox. This guy who identified as a woman beating the crap out of women. I mean, in MMA, you take them down, you could hit them when they're down. So literally on top of a woman, punching her in the face. It was disgusting. And Dana White said he would never allow that in the UFC. That's disgusting. So you won't see transgenders fighting in the UFC. This was like a low-level MMA tournament. And, a lot of Catholics think we shouldn't get involved in politics. But this is what happens when you don't get involved in politics. Just yesterday, Biden and Harris's Title IX regulations went into effect. So Title IX was a good law. It was a bipartisan law passed years ago to give women the same opportunity as men, to give girls the same opportunity as boys in sports. Schools couldn't discriminate. If there was 10 boy sports, there had to be 10 girl sports. Girls had to have their own locker rooms. I mean, just basic fairness, Everybody agreed it was fair. It was like a 27-page law. Well, what the socialists, Biden and Harris, did was make it into a 500,000-page law. This is what socialists do. They just bury regular people with bureaucratic nonsense to control us, They use all these laws that control you. Imagine 27 pages to 500,000 pages. And in those pages, they say anyone identifying, they didn't even have to have surgery. Like, people think that people went through this transition, they're a man, then now they're a girl. No. Riley Gaines told us that she was shocked. No one told her. She was a swimmer, great swimmer in college. And she's in the dressing room and she turns around and there's a 6'1", 250-pound muscular man with his full package, totally naked, dangling around within inches of her. And she's naked because she's changing. And she said it was horrible. And she said, we complained about it. We were called transphobes and bigots and homophobes. And all the colleges allowed it. All the high schools allowed it, And she's saying you can't understand how humiliating it is. He said to get in these swimsuits, everything is designed for speed. So these swimsuits are skin tight. They take about 10 minutes, she said, to squirm into one. So you're completely naked with these guys in there, and they have everything that a guy has. All they're doing is saying, I feel like a woman. And Aleila Thomas, the guy she's talking about, 6'1", 200 and something muscular male swimmer, swam as a male as a freshman, swam as a male as a sophomore. And then as a junior, he decides he wants to be a woman. Doesn't do anything except says, I'm a woman, and grows his hair long and wears makeup. And this average swimmer that couldn't win an event, to save his life in college, he did good in high school, becomes a champion, blowing women out of the water. And Riley Gaines worked her whole life since she's a little kid, dedicated to be a champion. And she has to compete against a man. This is disgusting. And this is why I said I kind of, and I like J.D. Vance. I think he's a good pick, but I think politically it would have been a wiser pick to pick Glenn Youngkin, because not only would we have won Virginia, and he appeals to suburban women, but Glenn Youngkin got elected by women who are generally not Republicans, because he stood against this in his school. The Democrats were allowing boys to compete in girls' sports and boys to use girls' bathrooms. That's part of this Title IX program that Biden and Harris just changed all the rules to yesterday. The rules went into effect. And there were boys saying, oh, I'm a girl. Just think about it. I mean, I didn't go to high school. You know my story, but I had friends that went to high school, and you know, men used to have wood shop or metal shop, and girls could have cosmetology or home economics. But then, you know, the liberals changed everything, so everybody could go everywhere. So I had some friends who were players, and they would take cosmetology because there were so many pretty girls there. I mean, just common sense. So imagine you can go into a girl's bathroom, just saying you're a girl. This makes no common sense. These Democrats have no common sense. They've lost any ounce of common sense. And the average person doesn't know because the media gaslights you and they call us homophobes, transphobes. No, we just got common sense. We don't want boys going in the bathroom with our daughters. And what got Glenn Youngkin in Virginia elected was because this boy who said he was a girl, dressed like a girl, went to a middle school. I think he's like 12 or 13-year-old boy, brutally raped and sodomized a little 12-year-old girl. And the superintendent did not want this narrative to get blown out of proportion, so he just moved to transfer the kid to another school, and he did it again. And then when the father went after the school superintendent, they arrested the father, and they claimed he's just some redneck transphobe. This is how NBC, ABC played this out. But the people in Virginia knew what was going on. So not only did they fire all their school board members and reelect conservatives, but they elected Glenn Youngkin. And So this election, you know, every election I always hear, this is the most important election of our lifetime. This one, I believe, really is, because Joe Biden's already talking about changing the Supreme Court. You see, the liberals had control of the Supreme Court for 50 years. You know, even Republican presidents didn't put the originalists on that they promised. Donald Trump was the only president to put 3 originalists on. And what an originalist is just whatever the Constitution says, they follow. What these other presidents did was put these activist judges. What they think the Constitution should say is how they make their decision. So now, after 50 years of having liberal rule, they got to deal with people that really interpret the Constitution. So now Biden's talking about changing the Supreme Court. And Kamala Harris said if she's elected, if the Senate and Elizabeth Warren promised if they just get the majority by 1 vote, they'll get rid of the filibuster. And not only will she add liberal, you know, right now there's 9 Supreme Court justices. She'll add like 4 or 5. And of course, there'll be liberal activist judges. And she said she will also, without there being a filibuster, and if they got the House as well, the Democrats promised her to give her a bill to codify Roe v. Wade, and she would sign it. Trump said he would never sign such a bill. And the Republicans won't get rid of the filibuster because this was socialists do. This is what they did in Venezuela. You know, they freely elected a socialist, and then he changed. The first thing he did was add to the Supreme Court. He added like 6 of his guys in the Supreme Court, so they rule in his favor, and then he just stays there forever like a dictator. Now, the Democrats in America know the people won't stand for that. We still have our guns. But they don't care because long as their Democrat establishment controls the White House, doesn't matter who's there. Look, Joe Biden, we know he's not controlling things. Who's controlling it? The same people that will control Kamala Harris if she gets in. The same people that picked her. The voters didn't even pick her. The Democrats didn't even have a primary for her. They had a primary and they voted for Biden. You know, they wouldn't let JFK in any debates. They wouldn't let that guy, I think his name was Dean Phillips, in any debates. I mean, if they would have had a primary, they would have seen Joe Biden had dementia, and either JFK or the other guy, Dean Phillips, or other people would have jumped in. But no, that's not how they wanted it. They pulled him out when they wanted to pull him out. They gave him an offer he couldn't refuse, basically. And they put Kamala in. This was not a coronation. This was not a democratic election. This was a coup. This was a coup by the billionaires. The billionaires told them, you're not going to get a cent, and none of your Congress people or senators will get a cent from us. So the billionaires made Biden step down. And then the billionaires said they want Kamala. That's why Kamala's in. And the media will gaslight us. And she's changing on every stance. She was always against fracking. She's on record, on video, saying she's against fracking. Now she's got to win Pennsylvania. She'll probably pick the governor of Pennsylvania who's in favor of fracking. So she's like, no, I'm in favor of fracking. And the media doesn't question her. They don't question her. And she flip-flopped on like 10 of these questions. Because she knows when she's in, she could do whatever she wants. Because not only will they change the Supreme Court and change the law on abortion and make abortion legal through the 9th month and beyond. Yes, beyond. These people want it when the baby's born, infanticide, if the mother decides then, before she leaves the hospital. Hillary Clinton said the mother should have that choice before she leaves the hospital. These people are on record saying this. Not only that, but they said they'll make Puerto Rico a state and Washington, D.C. a state. So with those electoral votes, they'll always win the White House. They know they'll have power, and that's all they care about is the power. And with the filibuster being gone and the Supreme Court and their, with activist judges, they will make the most horrible laws. So this election is the most important election of our lifetime. Just the other day, Israel took out the head of Hamas, the head of Hezbollah, and the head of the Iranian Guard. He took one out in Syria, one out in Lebanon, and one out right in Iran, which was kind of reminded me of The Godfather, when he took out the four heads of the four families that night, like boom, 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 all within like 12 hours, which is pretty amazing that Israel is that good. And the guy they took out in Iran was the guy that masterminded the bombing that killed 250 United States Marines almost, 30, 40 years ago. And we weren't able to get them, but Israel got them. So props to Israel for getting these killers, these evil terrorists. But that's not the most interesting thing about that. The most interesting thing was first time in history since Israel had been a state, they didn't notify the White House because they don't trust the White House, because they know the White House is infiltrated by pro-Hamas, pro-Iranian, pro-terrorists, which one of them is Kamala Harris. There was peace in the Middle East when Trump was president because he knew the enemy was Iran. Obama knew the enemy was Iran. They were the number one state terrorist sponsor of terrorism. But Obama's idea was to be friends with them and give them money, and they used that money for terrorism. Trump's idea was freeze their money, freeze like $7 billion of their money that was in U.S. banks, and he sanctioned them. He forced the sanctions so they couldn't sell oil. Then he made us oil energy independent, so the price of oil on the world market went down so low that even on the black market where Iran sold oil to China and Russia and India, they couldn't get that much money for it because the price of oil was so cheap. So Iran was bankrupt, so they couldn't fund Hamas. They couldn't fund Hezbollah. They couldn't fund Al-Qaeda, the Houthis. And Saudi Arabia and Qatar, all these people were happy because they're enemies with Iran. They know Iran's the enemy in the Middle East. So he was able to make like 5 peace deals with these Arab states, these Muslim states, in Israel. This is historic. If any other president did this, if it was a Democrat president, he would be considered by the media and the historians the greatest president ever. But because it was Trump, they kind of like poo-pooed it. But they're called the Abraham Accords. Look them up. So there was peace because we knew Iran was the sponsor of terrorism. Iran and Russia, axis of evil, they help each other out. And Russia makes most of their money on oil too. So Russia was broke. It was the same strategy Reagan used to break the Soviet Union. And it worked. As soon as Biden got in, he unfreezed the $7 billion. They used that money to fund Hamas, who had the slaughter and massacre of innocent babies, women, and children on October 7th. And Americans as well as Israelis. And they're still holding American hostages. And Biden's don't even talk about it. Kamala don't even talk about it. So if you want world peace, you better vote Trump. If you don't want our money to go to pay for abortions worldwide, vote for Trump, because Trump expanded the Mexico City policy, which banned any money going to foreign countries to pay for abortion. Biden got rid of it. Now we fund abortions all over the world. And, Trump wasn't able to end abortion, but he got it back to the states where we all wanted it. And in Florida, it's virtually banned. It's 6 weeks ban. After 6 weeks, you can't have an abortion. And I think there's like 14 states like that. Kamala Harris gets in. She's going to make that illegal. And she's going to put judges in that is going to enforce her rules. And then, federal judges. This is a big deal. This is a big deal. Catholics need to vote. And they need to vote for Trump if they care about unborn children, if they care about world peace, if they care about freedom. If they care about freedom. The Democrats are always trying to get Catholic hospitals, right? The Biden's administration's been fighting Catholic hospitals and making them perform transgender surgeries on children, abortions. We're always in a fight with them. Trump's administration was fighting on behalf of Catholics. There's a lot of little things. Everybody's looking at, oh, well, he supports the abortion pill. That's horrible. We're Catholics. But we're not voting, what church we go to. We're voting for politics. Which politician is closely aligned? Their policies are closely aligned to Catholic faith. And it's hands down, it's the Republicans. It's Donald Trump, hands down. Again, if I was going to join a church and the Republican Party was a church, I wouldn't go to that church. It would be too liberal. But I'm not thinking about joining the Republican church. I'm voting for a party. And they're as far as night and day when it comes to abortion, when it comes to assisted suicide, when it comes to world peace. So this election, in my view, is the most important election of our time. So vote. Register to vote. If you're not registered to vote, register. If you know someone who's not registered to vote and they're going to vote for Trump, register him, help him, take him wherever he's got to go to get registered. There's early voting. Vote as early as you can, because you'll never know what happens on voting day. Anything can happen. The devil doesn't want Trump in there. He tried to bankrupt him. He tried to put him in jail. The Democrats tried to get him off all the ballots, tried to kill him. And this guy is still standing. So support this man. God bless, and stay Catholic while you're at it.